Clint,
Colette,
it has been far too long, my friend.
I agree. How long has it? I think it's been 6 weeks, something like that?
I
5
think
weeks,
so.
4 weeks?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a while.
it's been a while. I
We've
started
both
a new
been super
job.
busy. You
Yeah,
started a job, yeah?
I started a job. The house is just starting to roll downhill, but also that just means a lot is happening. Hopefully, I will have a place to live in August that is my own. I know.
Like, what's the situation now?
End of
Like,
September.
you're
Right.
on the house, though, like, it's not livable right now, or
But yeah, we just put drywall on.
Okay.
Like there wasn't drywall until about a week ago.
So it's just sticks in a roof?
Yeah, and now there's drywall, and we did this cool thing today called Aero Barrier, where some guys come in with some machines and they positive pressure the house, and then the machines spray this stuff, and it just like sticks in all the little nooks and crannies and completely air seals your house. It's pretty wild.
That
Um,
sounds cool.
yeah, it's like pretty awesome. So our house is going to be very very sealed. The guy was like,
Nice.
this is very good. We're like, I'm really in retrospect, like we had decided not to like get a certified passive house, but we were basically like trying to approach what would if we had gone the certification route, what would have qualified. Um and we like got like I think getting a certified passive house is point zero or maybe it's point 0.6 ACH or something like that, which is, talks about that's like the air exchanges per
Mhm.
hour, something, something when there's like 20 miles per hour winds or something outside of your head. It's like a very technical. And we got to, I think, 0.89 today. Most houses
Wow.
that are new houses that are like up to code houses are like 3.0 or something. And then like old houses like this one I'm staying in right now is probably like a 12. It's like
Right, yeah.
super drafty. But our house will be like 0.89, hopefully, something around that.
I imagine that is actually pretty important in Michigan. Like, right?
Airtight
The
houses?
cold winds. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, I mean, so we're going way above and beyond. We are I feel like I just learned so much in my last house. That I was
yeah.
like, I need to do this the right way for this house. So we really went heavy on like insulation and air sealing because we want to basically be able to power the house with the solar array that we'll have on top and the batteries and like power the house and power an electric car like without needing
Nice.
to rely on the electrical grid. That's like the goal, like year round. So I think we'll probably be able to do that. I think that's going to happen. So that's cool.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I have solar panels that, barely keep up with our 2 giant air conditioners in the summer because I live in a house that was built in the '60s in California when they were like, "What do you want
Oil, who
energy
cares?
efficiency?
Like, yeah.
We just
It's
won
like
World
a
War II,
dollar a
like."
gallon. Like,
Yeah.
no big deal. Well, you can anybody can do aero barrier. Um, you can also retrofit. This was a house that was built in 1930 that but you can also retrofit with insulation and I think it's a smart idea for anybody, but I also think it's like the right thing to do for our future selves. The other interesting thing
Yeah.
is, one of the only houses that survived the fire in Los Angeles, like that went right through the Palisades, was a passive house that
Mhm.
had uh, the type of siding that we are going to have on ours, which is like a burnt wood siding. So, the nice thing about passive houses is they're also heavily fire resistant because they are pressurized. They're usually like have very thick, fireproof like
Mhm.
walls, and it had happened to have fireproof siding, the like
Yeah.
burned wood, and a metal roof, which is very fireproof. And then um, they also have triple pane windows, which can withstand a lot more heat
Yeah, before they
before
go,
they
yeah.
crack. So all of that means that you're heavily fire resistant, which is really cool too. Um, but yeah, So that's that. Hopefully, I will
Yeah.
live in a place that exists in a month or
I
two.
am excited for you. Yeah. Our plan on this house is when the kids leave, we knock it down and build something good.
Oh, I didn't know
Because,
that. I didn't know that that was
yeah,
your plan.
we've like tried to retrofit as much as we could. We've lived in the house for 10 plus years now.
Yeah,
And we just kind of a few years back, we're like, I don't think we should invest in this one anymore. Like every time you open a
that's
wall, they're
fair.
like, "Ooh, wow, that's Boeing," or like, "Those are some old pipes," or "What's this?" Like, it's just been done over and over and over and
Yeah.
patched, and a lot of DIY stuff from the previous owners that we've had to undo. So
Yeah.
we're just like, you know what? Let's just make it safe
Like,
and
yeah,
efficient enough
livable. Yeah.
for the next 10 years, and then we'll just knock it down and sell it to someone else as a huge upgrade and move on. So it does not
Well,
have long to live.
you you now have a friend who can help you out
I'm
with
going to be picking your
that
brain
process.
in about 7 years when I'm going to start like, planning it. So yeah, which is weird to make plans that far in the future. I didn't used to make plans that far in the future. I'm getting old.
I know. Well, I also think that's such a big milestone, right? The empty nest situation is such a big thing.
Especially for me. It's like having had so many.
Yes. I have 15 years until that. So my plan is that I'm going to live in this house until at least then.
I like that.
Preferably, yeah. So that's my plan. My plan is no plans for me.
Who's to say what will be happening in 10 and 15 years, but
Hey
we
man,
still make plans anyway, right?
we have magic robots writing code for us today. Could you have made that call 5 years ago? Probably not.
No. No, I
Yeah.
was not. I was totally and completely blindsided by GPT-3 when it came out, the first one that could do it a little. I was like, no, can't. And now it's like Mythos. It's just like proving it, making us all look stupid. Like, okay, like the world has changed. And yet I've
Fundamentally.
been
Yeah.
delighted by how it also has not changed at all. Like we're definitely shipping all kinds of AI generated code, and yet everyone is busier than ever,
There's still problems.
shockingly. Yeah.
There's still stuff to do. There's still things happening. Yeah, my new job is very, I know we don't really like talk about the jobs as sort of a semi-rural here specifically, but I will say like they've really gotten on the AI train and I've been able to see like so many cuz I do feel like I kind of missed out, right? I left like right before the real step change in all of the different code generation capabilities of the LLMs. Like I guess that was what like last winter that it
Yeah.
really kind of last fall and so I just I wasn't around for any of to see kind of what is different and now I'm like oh wow this is pretty wild so I'm
Yeah. The
seeing a lot
naysayers are
of
getting quiet. For
yeah
sure.
well I mean I think it's like oh what did I read Mitchell Hashimoto's tweet about how he has like a he poison pills like people who try to submit pull requests using AI without like basically looking at what they've done, you know?
Hmm.
And he was like, "Yeah, to be clear, I'm not against AI. I'm against you submitting an AI pull request to me that you haven't even looked at."
Yeah.
And you know, I thought that was really like I think that's a really fair line and I think that there is this social reciprocity that I see, right? Which is like if you come to me and this is AI generated and you have a problem with something in your code and you want to ask for help or anything like that, if you understand what you're trying to do, if you can explain it in your own words, then we can have a conversation and I can help you. But if all you do is copy and paste the like log output from this thing you're trying to do and you can't have a sane conversation about what it is you're trying to do, I'm going to like what are people supposed to how are you expecting humans to parse all of that, right? For your own sake if you won't do it. I think that's like it's a courtesy thing, right?
Yeah. And it's, well, this is the new, like, when we change something, right, we find out what was happening that we actually valued. So we
Mm.
thought we wanted people to submit pull requests because we wanted code. But actually, what we wanted was we wanted people to be engaged with the project. We wanted them to enrich it with their understanding and knowledge
And
and wisdom.
knowledge. Yeah.
And we still want them to do that. We
Yes.
absolutely want, in an open source world, in your internal projects, you want that. But if it does just become a never ending stream of AI generated code, like, now we need to augment that with some other evidence that you've actually engaged. Like, your
Yeah.
agent can only engage at some certain level. You still have it's not just human in the loop. Like, you still have a big role to play. And I'm not going to trust your code, your AI generated code, if you don't convince me that you are playing that role.
You got promoted. I'm
I
so happy
did.
for you.
I'm a principal engineer now.
Are
I
people
guess I'm
treating you different
announcing
at
that
work?
here. No, because they've been mistakenly calling me principal
Thinking you were
engineer
one
for
anyways.
a
I
year.
know. Well, that's the
Yeah.
thing. It was
Yeah, I've been
a
doing
long
the
time
job.
owed and well deserved. I can say, even though I haven't worked there since last July. So I'm so happy for you. That's so great.
Yeah, it's nice to finally get the title. And weirdly, this is my first time ever getting promoted in a promotion process at a job officially.
At a job.
Like, I've just kept moving companies to get promoted, and it feels a little different.
Well,
feels way harder.
It is way harder. There's a reason when things were good in the industry, when during our booming 20s era, that people, did our roaring teens, really is what it was, not booming.
Yeah.
I was sort of referring to the 1920s, but kids, for those of you at home, the 1920s were called the roaring 20s because everyone was throwing money everywhere on everything. And that's what the teens were like in tech.
We call it the ZIRP era.
Yeah, ZIRP,
The zero interest rate
phenomena. Cool. So it's been a while since we released an episode, and that's not on purpose, everybody. It's because I've been busy and Clint has been busy and we've been busy. And we have a great question today we want to talk about, but I think we're going to say this isn't the end of the podcast. This is the end of season 2. Are we in season 2?
Season 2.
End of season 2. And so we might take a little bit more of a pause in the summer just to allow for vacations and stuff. But we're going to try to get back on the horse in August. And that is because we actually already have a podcast guests lined up for August. We'll probably have a few. But yeah, we're gonna have the folks from Layer Aleph, including Mikey Dickerson. They wrote a book called Crisis Engineering, and
which I'm totally gonna read by then.
Yeah, and we're gonna read it over the summer, and then we're gonna have them on the podcast and talk to them about it. I'm really excited. So this is like the end of our season 2. Seasons, what do they mean? I don't know. I just pressed it was a new season the last time we did this. So reflections on season 2, Clint?
I liked that we added Paper Club.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying Paper Club. It's a nice, sort of answer a question, do a paper. Had some of my favorite chats about, and learned about papers that I didn't know about. 2 years before the mast was a big, I'm not alone in this evolution. So yeah, I really, really have enjoyed it. I thought we've had some great, great guests on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been super great. I'm really glad we had John on all the times. And I'm really glad we had Dave Woods to talk about the Messy 9. I think that's been a really interesting thing. And I would like to continue to follow up on it in various ways in the next season, if we can. Because I think this, us figuring out how to reflect on what AI is doing to folks who are trying to operate software, I think that's a really interesting space. So I hope we get more opportunities to talk to Dr. Woods and to talk to folks about how they're working in their day-to-day life. And I would like to welcome people to write into us at thisisfinepod.com and, even just like send us observations about stuff that's happened at work with AI. Because I think you don't have to have a question about resilience engineering. You can have a question about like your day to day work, especially your day to day work as you're dealing with all of this change, right? And we can contextualize that with resilience engineering, right? We don't need to have it be specific. So, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about how your staging environment works now that AI runs it, right? I just want to know. I'm very curious. Like, no, really, I do think like we have had a few like sort of more comment than questions, and I think it's a good point to remind people like this is kind of a two-way conversation. So if you are like looking at something going, I need help making sense of this, like we'll find a guest or we'll talk about it. But yeah, send it to us.
Yes, all your snarky observations are welcome. The form is anonymous. Nobody will ever know unless you tell us who you are. So we got a question. Should I read it? Okay. I see a mix of people in resilience reliability work who have built their career without formal training, degrees, etc., and mostly function off practical experience. And there are people who lean very academic and also a lot of people in between. In your experience, what is valuable about both career trajectories and what they bring to the work, the industry, et cetera? And how can we be open about welcoming both? I love this question.
Me too, because we both have very different paths to resilience engineering, and just and to reliability and even engineering in general. And I find that that's actually a pretty common difference. Like in our world, like we seem to have attracted a lot of folks who, for whatever reason, arrived at software and reliability not through like a CS program and then writing code and then like that there are certainly folks in our community that are in that boat, but many of them are from wildly different backgrounds. Like I quit college because I was like at a weird college and I didn't like it, and I was working in software. I was already writing code as my job, and I was like, I'm not learning anything here. And this was the 90s, so it was the cool thing to quit college to go work on code.
To go code, yeah.
To go code, or for my what I ended up doing was going and coding and then becoming the sysadmin at a software company because nobody else had ever touched Unix. They were all used to being in their code editors, and then becoming like, just I don't know, weird path. Like, and I keep going back and forth between like more sysadmin-y, more writing codey, but definitely no formal education beyond those initial things. I just like to play with computers.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm very jealous of folks who have a more formal education, especially in resilience engineering. But most of what I've learned about it, I've learned here or from you or from John.
Yeah, I mean, and I have an MFA in cello performance, and I've never been a coder, would never have called myself a coder, nor a sysadmin, although I guess I technically was when I was in college. But yeah, I don't. Lund is obviously the academic degree that I have. But what's interesting about Lund is that it's a program for people who work. So it's very much geared towards people who are already working, who are not. It's meant to be more practical, I think, than a lot of other of the masters of science in human factors and system safety or whatever related thing. There's a PhD program. Dr. Woods is emeritus at OSU. There's a PhD program in the sort of space, the systems engineering, world there. And I feel like that's a much more academic, like, program. You can get your PhD there. I think you can also get your PhD at Lund in human factors and system safety, but it's definitely a more academic. Their master's program is for like people who are working in more practical fields. But I also think like what's interesting at Lund is even in the safety world, the academic safety world, there's a divide. So, and I've heard this more often than not where there's like the safety inspectors and like the people who are like academically trained as safety people. And then there are like people who were like operating, flight, like who were pilots or who were, operators, essentially people at the sharp end, as we say in the resilience
Right.
engineering world, that were actually doing something. They weren't sort of walking around a job site saying that's not safe or that's not safe. They weren't inspecting things. They weren't, a lot of people in air traffic control who are air traffic controllers, a lot of folks in various different operator positions. And I think that's a real divide even within academia. People who have been at that pointy end versus people who have not, who have just observed it as part of an academic piece of work.
Yeah, I think this seems like a generic thing with people who do work, honestly, right? Like I don't know about other industries very well. I'm, fully ensconced in this one my whole career, but I have seen it play out at every company and in every area where you do have people who bring a formal education and have a certain set of skills that I don't. And then you have people like me who bring a certain set of skills that they don't. And I don't know. Sometimes I think this is wrong, but I kind of feel like it's like the nurses and the doctors sometimes. Like I
Mm.
feel like it's not nearly the same, but I do feel sometimes like I'm the charge nurse, and the doctors are bringing an amazing set of skills, but like got to take care of the patients, right? Right, like the patients need care, and in my world, the patients are the users, right? And so it actually may be a benefit, like the fact that all these systems continue to work with this divide, I think is actually an important thing that maybe should be studied more closely, because I think the sharp end experience moving into leadership or into safety management brings a perspective that kind of needs the academic perspective. Like I need
Mm.
sometimes when I'm talking with folks like Fred, I feel like Fred has an academic mind,
Fred
but
Hebert.
how Fred
Yeah.
Hebert, yeah,
Yeah.
Fred Hebert, but a sharp end's perspective, and he'll say things, and I'm like, I need papers, Fred. I need to like read. I can't
I need a
like I don't know
second
what all
to,
these
yeah,
things
figure
are
out what you
you're
just said to
saying
me. Yeah.
are, yeah, and but then if I can take the time, he could pull me out of an operational crisis in my mind, like I don't know what to do about this, and he's sort of like, well, no, this is XYZ pattern, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, how did you know that, Fred? And just like, and he'll be like, well, I've read all these papers because I read papers for fun. Thank you for reading papers for fun, Fred. But I do feel like there isn't enough time in a lifetime to have both. There's not. You're
Mm.
going to have one or the other. But I think we need each other very much. And so I always try to sit with folks who have a formal training and see what structures and non-obvious learnings they can give to me, because sometimes I just get very opinionated, like I've run these things, I know things that you don't know. But in fact, oftentimes that the common sense approach doesn't see the larger picture that's been studied and played out and published in papers.
Well, and I would point out we were both taught how to do incident analysis by two people who have academic experience, John Allspaw and Dr. Richard Cook. And uh, never once in their training did they talk about resilience engineering or theory or anything like that. I think like they trained us how to do incident analysis in a practical way, but it was solidly grounded in actual theory. They just didn't have to talk to us about it. It's not important, right? What's important is that you learn how to do the work so that you can start to actually learn from incidents, like help your organization learn from incidents. I think that to me is the ideal scenario, is like you have the groundedness. I always think of cello because obviously I've played cello for now, what, I don't know, 41 years. I always say there's like a base level of like technique that you have to have. And then you can kind of play anything, or like most things that matter anyways. And like
Mhm.
once you have that base level, you have a lot more flexibility to take from different places and have different experiences with different pieces. If you don't have that base level of technique, you can still play some pieces, but it will take you longer to learn. You won't have as much flexibility within them and how you approach them or how you interpret them. You know, you'll have limitations, right? But there's absolutely nothing wrong with not having the like conservatory base level technique and still going off on your own and doing your own thing and being a great musician. Like, you know what I mean? There's no
Yeah.
it unlocks some stuff that's cool, but it's not required.
Yeah, no, I feel that directly related to how we learning from incidents, and then I started to learn about resilience engineering, and that I relate a lot of what I read in papers and what I see at work and as we run programs for resilience engineering just back to basic incident analysis, because it demonstrates almost all of the principles that we talk about all the time of exposing work and you know listening to people and having different perspectives and bringing them together into synthesis, like that stuff. I don't know if the theory would make as much sense to me if I hadn't done that a lot
Mm.
before I started diving more into that. I sort of It is kind of a gift. Like I sort of start with that base of like, okay, well, there's always an incident. Like
Right.
there's always an incident,
You have
and
a
there's always themes.
tactile yeah, I mean, I think you have this tactile understanding of what it means and what's true about the theory. And I think the flip side of that, right, is like if you have a lot of theory but no practical experience, I think what can be hard is that you don't have that tactile uh sort of understanding of, I guess there's like a your intuition is different, right? I think when you start to practice some of these things to engage with these ideas in a tactile way, like doing incident analysis, for example, it 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 suddenly becomes intuitive. It suddenly makes much more sense. Yeah, I don't know.
No, no, I see this too. And sociology is the right term, I think, for what we're talking about here, because it isn't just about resilience engineering. The common sense approach is like that's a real term, right? What comes to your mind first. Like I've seen this, I will apply common sense here,
A
and
lot of people think five whys is common sense, right? Like, yeah,
it kind of feels more common sense
yeah.
than a long form incident analysis does, because those are the questions that occurred to me and I want to know the answers to those things. And so I will ask them in a group and we'll talk about them, and that's a common sense way. And that's I think that this happens in our politics. This happens when we're
Hmm.
dealing with medicine and science, right? You get mad at your doctor for saying something. You're like, but can't we just do the common sense thing? And they're like, well, I got like studies that to show no, like you can die if you want, but
Yeah,
we'll do the medicine with the science. And yes, it feels counterintuitive, but we have something that tells us that we should do this. And so I think we're always going to be faced with that. And that is what resilience engineering is trying to do is pull out like, hey, people do work in complex systems, and the common sense reaction to those things is often problematic. And so the theories that come out of it and the practices that we learned are trying to counter that and say, well, what if we do things thinking about what we've learned about people and how they interact, like just talking to people one-on-one in our long form incident analysis versus having them in a group setting changes the way they answer, right? And we just did a
Yes.
beautiful episode on that with John.
Mhm.
And that is taking science, taking what we understand about people and putting it into practice. And that's where I need more people to give me the science. I'm too steeped in the practice, but I'm also totally willing to go along as long as you can make a good academic argument to me. I'm like, that sounds good. I'll try it a couple of times. And I feel like that's the role I play. But I don't think I don't think that's a whole approach. We absolutely need folks with all the academic training around to hold us accountable for that as well.
Have you felt welcomed in, I mean, first of all, do you find the foundation? So, full disclosure, we know that the person who asked this question is from our foundation Slack. They wrote us. We won't say who they are because it's not important. But have you found the foundation Slack, like, which is like, it's pretty academic, I guess? I mean, it's certainly the most academic space we probably have as software engineers to interact in, but like, how do you find that as someone who considers yourself kind of not academic? Like, do you find it welcoming? Do you find it intimidating? Like, a lot of people have talked to me about, like, privately about finding the space intimidating sometimes. So I'm just curious about that.
Not intimidating for me. I feel very welcomed. It does feel dense. And so I noticed myself disengaging from it when I'm busy.
Mm.
And that is a clear sign like, oh, that's a dense, like that's a learning place. I absolutely feel like I learn things when I have the energy to put into it. But it doesn't always get above my cutoff line for like, do I have like this energy to invest in myself today? When I do, I'm just wonderfully welcome about like questions and like my goofy, silly comments, because I do make a lot of them about these things and trying to make analogies that don't make any sense. Like, but that's how I engage with the content that they're sharing and with their discussions. And to me, those always go into a good place. I see a lot of folks coming in with like, wow, look at this paper and I can't believe that. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And they'll, well, I'm talking about this, and they're willing to explain stuff. But I think that's also me. Like, I don't really get intimidated very easily. Pretty comfortable being socially the one, thumb in a room of fingers. Like, I'm
You
okay with
always
that. But
seem happy to play the role of the naive, even when you know more than you let on. I
correct.
think, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I rather relish it actually. And I like to see people like get out of their usual modes and try to help someone in my position. Like, so I'm also like modeling like,
Hmm.
hey, it's okay to be naive here. So I do think that if people are finding that Slack intimidating, I do think that that's normal and natural. It is. There are a lot of really, really well-informed, educated folks and really experienced people in there having really intense conversations. Uh, I think you can get through it though. Like, and it's a great place to lurk too. I was like, you can lurk, just lurk, you'll learn.
I think one of the things that I try to be really mindful of, right? There's that classic, like, someone new to the Slack walks in and says something in a channel that's like, I love resilience and I've been working on the auto scaling plan for my yada yada. And, you could see like many people are typing, then it stops. Many people are typing and it stops. And everybody's just trying to be like, that isn't what we mean by resilience. But also, we don't want to say it like that because we don't want to be unwelcoming or like you're
Hmm.
anyone to think that they're dumb because they're not. That's such a common use of the word resilience outside of the academic circle that we're in. And so it was always a goal of mine to not be that place that treated people like idiots. Or
No
treated
comic book
people.
guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think though that there's always more work to be done. There's always less pedantry to be had. Um, I think in particular, but like my hope as somebody who has some more of that academic background now, and I didn't like 4 or 5 years ago, right? I was hugely intimidated 4 or 5 years ago. And part of me went to Lynch so that I wouldn't be anymore. Like I have such imposter syndrome that I'm not like Fred Hebert, who can like Fred's not even done with his Lynn program yet. He just decided to go there, but like was way read beyond me, a decade ago, probably. So like I am the kind of person who's like, okay, if I'm really wanting to hang with these people, then I have to like do the work. In my opinion, in order to feel at all confident for me, I needed to go do the work and get the degree, and fight my imposter syndrome every step of the way. Uh, so that was kind of why I did it. But I do think like I would like to think that I am a more practical, less bookish sounding person in there. I don't know. Maybe I'm not.
I feel that though, the need to like show up with credentials, like, and I think like you being a woman probably increases the pressure on you for that.
For
Like
sure.
people treat you differently. It's not fair, but it happens. I get to walk in with my privilege and people just assume like, well, you're confident and you're a man, so you probably know this stuff. And I can just fake it pretty well, and it's not fair. But I do think that the Resilience in Software Foundation Slack doesn't seem to be taking that for granted. Like it does feel like people are welcoming. And I do think that it's been set up that way. And I think it's self-selecting a little too. Like we definitely invite people who we like to it. So I haven't seen jerks bubble up, but there's no better answer for any of this than the reminder to be curious. That's kind of always been
Mm.
that's the thing I remind my kids all the time. Like, especially like as I have my boys become teenagers, they start thinking they know everything. And I just remind them like, you're like curiosity first, like curiosity, not like, just don't assume, like, even if you're sure, like just ask it as a question instead of saying it out loud. Like, oh, I wonder is a much better start than actually. And I see a lot of curious people in the resilience engineering world. Like when we go to SRECon and we all huddle up and I see new people,
Mm-hmm.
I see they're curious people, and
Yeah.
we're like, oh, another curious person. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like this could be different. Come talk to us about it. And I think that's a key component. Like whether you're curious enough to go to a degree program or just to read a paper.
Yeah.
I think that's what I don't need you to have read papers, but if you're curious enough to do so, I'm going to be like, respect. Like,
and if you need a
amazing
list of papers to read, John Allspaw is your man. You just got to reach out to
yes.
him. He'll just send you a bunch of papers to read. That's his goal in life, is to send everybody papers, as many papers.
Or sometimes he'll
possible.
hand you a printed out paper.
Yeah.
And just say, I thought of you.
I thought of you, and I printed this out,
Yeah,
and I brought it
one.
all the way to see you. Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. What do we answer? Did we say?
I hope so.
I think there is 100% value to both. I think dipping your toe in one way or the other is always a good thing to do. And I think, like you said, being curious is probably the most important piece of advice to give people on either side of the chasm. That isn't really a chasm. Like people are in both areas a lot. My hope, right, is like that the Resilience in Software Slack is a really great foundation. Slack is a really great place to see that being bridged. And I hope we can do a better job of it constantly.
Maybe someday even a conference where it's bridged as well.
Yeah. I think that would be super fun.
Well, if people do, I think we should answer this for people as well. If people are interested in taking an academic path towards resilience, engineering, especially in the context of software. You've mentioned Lund. You've mentioned some other ones. Like I think there are some lower stakes ones. Like there's the learning lab that Lund does too. It's like
Yeah. So Lund's program is really interesting. You can get your master's of science in human factors and system safety through Lund's program. And during that program, the first two in-person requirements they have are in January and June of your first year in the program. You have to be in Lund for a week in person. And those times are also called learning labs. And so if you're not sure you want to do the master's program and like go through the application, you can apply to just attend one of those learning labs, the January one or the June one. And it's still a fee, but it's less of a fee. And so it's kind of just like dipping your toe in, and they'll send you like a list of readings that you should do ahead of time or whatever. And then you go there, and then they give you readings there and exercises, and it's like a big learning thing. So, and you're learning alongside the master student. So you're just part of that week, regardless. And that's kind of a cool thing. If you're not sure that you want to really do something as big as a master's program, but you still want to have a cool experience with people talking about this kind of stuff, you can totally go. And they're very welcoming of folks. We had people in our learning labs that we like kept in our group chat for the master's students because they were just awesome and wanted to keep in touch with us. So anybody can go. Once you have been a master's student, spoiler alert, they let you come back for learning labs whenever you want, which is fun.
what?
And
Nobody told me that. That sounds so cool.
Yeah. And then this year they just did a 20th anniversary. I'm really bummed I wasn't there, but they just had the 20th anniversary of the program. So they invited people for an extended time and had like an extended conference during Learning Lab 2. And that's really the fun one because it's June and everybody's like graduating from Lund, and like it's a big party in Sweden, right? Because it's like June in Sweden, so it's super beautiful outside.
Yeah.
The January ones can be a little bleak. But yeah, so it's really cool, and I highly recommend it. OSU also has a lab, a cognitive systems engineering lab. I don't know, something like that. You can look it up, and there's wonderful people affiliated with it now. Mike Rayo, I think, runs it. David Woods founded it. Dr. David Woods, who we've had on the program. That's great. I've heard of one in Florida.
Yeah, me too. But I don't know much about it.
I forgot about it. So there are other programs.
Human factors, so I think.
Right? Yeah. And then there's a program in Melbourne, Australia, that Sydney Decker teaches at. And the guy who wrote a lot of stuff related to you might know him as Drew Ray from the Safety of Work podcast, but he wrote a lot of stuff that I ended up citing in my master's thesis at Lund. So he's kind of a well-known safety guy. He is in Melbourne as well. So there's a kind of group of folks who are there. I'm sure there's some other programs. If you are a listener and you know of other programs, please let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
To plug them.
We've had add them to the notes.
Yeah, we've had a panel on for Lund, but I'm sure we could also do like a feature on OSU and their program. OSU's program is full-time, right? So the nice thing about Lund is that it's geared towards working people again. So like you're not expected to kind of not work while you're doing the course. It's about 20-hour a week commitment. And unless you're John Allspaw, and then it's like 5 hours a week max because you're just, all the stuff. I always tease him about that.
Well, and if you're interested in those practical skills that we learned, you could also contact Adaptive Capacity Labs to come and do some training for your company.
It's true. I link to them all the time. They will teach you the actual practical real life skills of that work. The other things you can do are, Uptime Labs is a product that allows you to drill incidents. It's very grounded in all of this academic stuff, but it's grounded, it's practical, it's, real life stuff. And then, if you want incident command training in person around this sort of like stuff that I think is also pretty well grounded in some of the science, BlackRock 3, those guys know their stuff in terms of like teaching people how to do incident command and understanding the role. And like, I think that's more grounded in, those guys are like trained in emergency, like fire services, like stuff like
They're all
that. But like, it's
ex-firefighters, yeah.
but there are like firefighter people who go to Lund, right? So this is
Yeah.
all, it all kind of percolates around the
We can learn
various
from each
industries.
other.
So yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the coolest part, honestly, about going in academia, is that you get exposed to people who you would not be exposed to. All of the Dutch pilots and air traffic control people and social work people and all that kind of stuff. There's no other way to get exposed to them other than to go through the academic programs. There's no like other kind of place where you would meet all those different people thinking about the theory, right? That applies in these very different ways and sometimes exactly the same ways across industries. So, all right, I think we answered it. Do we have anything else to plug before we end our season 2?
Season 3 coming in
Season
August.
3 coming up. We have some ideas building. We would love it if you filled out our question form at thisisfinepod.com, our revamped website. Go ask us questions. Get us ready for our next season.
Or submit a paper that you'd like to hear discussed.
Yeah, for Paper Club. If you have a thing,
Sure.
You're like, what the heck is this paper? We'll do it.
Your ideas are welcome. We are here to serve you and your resilience engineering curiosities.
True story. Thanks, Clint.
Thanks, Colette.
See you later.